2101 North Oracle Road, and the zoning classification is C2. The applicant has a property of approximately 12,500 square feet, and it's currently undeveloped. They're proposing a new commercial storage building, and as a result, two variances are being requested by the applicant. The first variance is to delete the required 10-foot landscape border between the 166-foot length of the proposed building and to the north property line. And the second variance requested is to modify the screening requirement by allowing the exterior building wall to serve as the screen for the 166-foot length of the proposed building along the north property line, all as shown on the submitted plans. Like I said, they are proposing a new commercial storage building that is a permitted use in the C2 zone. Per UDC section 7.6, 10-foot wide landscape borders are required to be provided on all streets. The site is bordered by 3 streets. Additionally, they are required to provide a 10-foot landscape border to the north, which is currently a multifamily development use. And again, they are looking to delete the landscape border between the 166 length of that building to the north lot line. It's important to note that landscaping and screening cases go to the design review board for recommendation to the Board of Adjustment. The case was heard on November 17th of this month. The design review board recommended denial of the requested variances. They found that the variances were not in compliance with the UDC. Ultimately, they found that the location of the building was self-imposed. There was no exceptional topography that prevented the project from meeting the landscaping and screening codes, and that due to the height of the building, it would diminish light and air onto the north property, and is ultimately not the minimum necessary to afford relief. For staff, we have no objection to the applicant's proposed variances. The property is encumbered by providing 10-foot wide landscape borders. The property is only 50 feet wide, which further constrains and encumbers the location of that building on there. There's full code requirements, so other requirements such as setbacks, parking, pedestrian circulation, that sort of thing also needs to be met. And in conclusion, staff, again, has no objection to the requested variances. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, Wyatt, I have a question.
Yes.
I could find nothing in the submitted paperwork, and it was mentioned about the height of the building. We saw no elevations on any of the drawings that they submitted, so I'm just curious, how high is that building? Is it 1, 2 stories, 3 stories, what?
It is a 20-foot tall building. That elevation is provided at the bottom of that PowerPoint slide there. It should have been included within the plan set.
All right, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Berger?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
2 questions. One, could you clarify the distinction between the landscape border and the screening? Those are two different regulations, both of which are being asked to be varied. Could you, just for our benefits, clarify the distinction between the two?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to. The UDC requires a 10-foot wide landscape border. That includes the canopy trees. 1 canopy tree per every 33 linear feet is required. And so the applicant is proposing to eliminate that requirement where the building is located. The screening relates to some sort of opaque wall or fence that screens the use to other adjacent properties. For this specific development, a 5-foot tall screen wall is required along the entirety of the north property line. The applicant is looking to modify that requirement by having the 20-foot tall building act as a portion of that screening requirement.
Okay, very good. You say this went before the design review committee. and they recommended denial of both requests. Could you repeat or elaborate on their reasoning that they expressed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, during the meeting, it was expressed that they requested denial of the variances. They had found that the massing of the building and the location of the proposed building was a self-imposed hardship. They had also found that the property doesn't exhibit any exceptional topography that would prevent the project from meeting the landscaping code requirements. And again, the DRB also found that using the building as the screen wall and eliminating that landscaping requirement would substantially diminish light and air on the apartments to the north of the site. And so therefore, with those findings, they found that they recommended rather that the requested variances be denied.
Okay, one last question or request for clarification. The reference to the height does not indicate that there is a variance relative to height being requested, but rather that height is in compliance with the code, is it not?
Yes, the C2 zone allows for the proposed building height. And again, that building height they're proposing is 20 feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. That's all I have.
My pleasure.
I don't think there are any other questions.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we move to the second item?
Mr. Chair, we have Georgia Pennington, who will be presenting the second case.
So this is C 10-2311 for 4329 East 14th Street. It's R1 zoning for a garage addition, and the applicant is David Garcia. The applicant's property is an approximately 10,600 square foot lot zoned R1 residential and is developed with one single family dwelling that's currently being used for assisted living facility. But within a certificate of occupancy for 5 beds. The applicant is proposing to construct an attached garage. It's proposed to be 548 square feet, intended for multiple uses such as one vehicle space, storage, and an additional bathroom. Additionally, the project includes an office addition on the north side of the residence. The applicant is requesting the following variance: to allow the construction of an attached garage with a reduced front street perimeter yard setback from 20 feet to 3 feet 5 inches as measured from the street property line, as shown on the submitted plans. UDC section 645C1A requires a minimum front street perimeter yard setback of 20 feet measured from the street property line. Any reduction beyond 18 feet requires a variance through the Board of Adjustment. Excuse me. The subject property is located in the neighborhood south of Broadway Boulevard near Swan Road. The neighborhood consists of large lots developed with single-family homes that have attached and detached carports and/or garages. The existing residence is unique in its layout, with the front facade of the residence diagonal across the lot. An aerial photograph and street views reveal mature vegetation on the southwest portion of the property. The garage is ultimately proposed to be located at its most logical location along the southeast portion of the property, where parking for the property already exists. The location is also ideal to avoid the removal of the existing mature vegetation. As of today, there have been 3 total comments received, 2 approvals and 1 protest. PDSC staff has no objections. Should the board grant the variance, we do recommend there be a condition that there shall be no parking between the garage and the streets. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
The reduced setback, is there any other such setback reduction in the immediate area?
There are a few. I don't believe there are garages, but there are reduced setbacks in the neighborhood.
I'm not sure I heard that completely. You're saying that there are, and are you saying that there are to the same extent that is being asked for here?
I'm not sure that they're like 3 feet, as close as 3 feet to the property line, but there are reduced setbacks.
Mm-hmm, okay. All right, thanks.
Sure. Ms. Hollis?
Yes, thank you. There were some notes in the review process questioning whether or not the storage room was going to be a storage room or another bedroom. And that raised the question in my mind about the number of bedrooms in a single family structure in the R1 zone. Can you explain to me what would happen if it turned out this was a 6th bedroom and not a storage use?
So, since it's assisted living, they would meet the parking requirement of 3 spaces. If they did convert back to a single family residence with 6 bedrooms, then they would have to adjust their parking configuration.
I'm also curious as to the fact that it's an adult use care facility, but I see no special exception and I see no references to required parking. Are there any such things in the code related to this type of use in the R1 zone?
For this use, it's 3 spaces for adult care in the R1 zone.
Additionally, Ms. Paulus, I'll just clarify that residential care services such as this are permitted by right in residential zones, so they do not require a special exception for up to 10 residents. This one only has a C of O for 5 residents, and Georgia is correct. They are required to have 3 spaces. They are allowed to be in the locations they've indicated on the plans.
I saw a comment and something on property research online that indicated they now have a CFO for 10 beds. Is that correct?
I saw that they had approval from fire for 10, but not a C of O for 10.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
That's all of my questions.
Are there any other questions right now?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, may I ask one more question? And I don't know who to direct it to.
Sure.
But I know a carport can have a reduced setback to the front yard. And normally carports you can see out of as you're backing up. But this is a garage, and I'm curious as to the safety or the legality of backing out of an enclosed space onto a street with, I'm concerned about the visibility as you're backing out of the driveway. If they only have 3 feet to the property line, is that sufficient sight line for a vehicle to back out safely onto a roadway? And if you don't have that question or the answer now, that's fine. I will ask it again during the public hearing.
Sure, Ms. Paulus, I can attempt to answer that question for you. So with the carport, you're correct. You've got that visibility because the sides are open as you're backing out. Also people that are pedestrians that are walking by, they're able to see, they have that visual of a vehicle moving. In this case, and cases similar to it, where you have a garage that's close to the property line at 3.5 feet, we also look into we take into consideration the width of the right of way that's from the property line to the actual street. In this case, they do have significant space between that property line and the where the street pavement begins, so that as a vehicle is backing out, a pedestrian could see that, and as the person that's in the vehicle can also see pedestrians that may be walking along the street. So we look at that, we take that into consideration. If it was a case where the property line is maybe 3 feet away from the curb or 1 foot from the curb, then that would definitely be a safety hazard.
I have one additional question. This matter relates apparently to a detached garage, but the language used on the exhibits and in the discussion relate to a storage building. Is there some significance to the use of that language versus just calling it out as a garage?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, are we talking about the case C 1023-11?
I think I am jumping the gun. I'm on 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions for C 1023-11, I will go ahead and start with the next case. Okay. So we have C 1023-12. That's the Vance and Rasmussen residence. It's a new storage building. It's located at 4655 South Mesquite Ranch Road. It's SR zoned. This is approximately an 18-acre parcel located on the southeast side of Tucson near Houghton and Irvington Roads. It is developed with a single-family residence, as you can see, with horse corrals, a barn, and a ramada. And what the applicant is proposing to do is construct a proposed building here. It'll be a metal building. Its purpose will be intended to accommodate storage for equipment and machinery that it would be used to maintain the property, as well as to provide shelter for the feed for the animals. This particular property also has significant floodplain issues. So a floodplain permit was issued for this building. And so the next step in getting this project approved is for the variances. The variances that the applicant are seeking is to allow for a building increase in height from 12 feet to 18 feet 9 inches. That's measured from design grade to the midpoint of the roof. And then to allow the combined total gross floor area of all the accessory structures on site that are 200 square feet or larger to exceed 50% of the gross floor area of the primary residence. To date, we have only received one approval and no protests. Staff does not have any objection to the requested variances. We've seen several cases like this where the property is developed in a similar manner, an SR zone or some type of suburban ranch zone, where you have typically a residence and then multiple structures that are used to accommodate the function of the property and also for animals. So in this case, we don't have any objections to the proposed use and the proposed project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Well, I do have one, and the second variance is to exceed the 50% maximum of the total accessory building square footage relative to the area of the principal building. If approved, what would the percentage be?
So that would be 188%.
188. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions at this point? Okay, Mr. Chair, we're about 5 minutes away from 1:30. If you want to take a break and reconvene.
Yeah, Mark, I've just got one observation, because I've actually dealt with a couple of projects that dealt with this, is that particularly, I think it's C 10 2310, the Vegas storage building, is there's a lot of lots in Tucson that are like this, and that they're designed in another time and another place, but certainly another time. And so that when we come up with these properties against the new code, we start running into problems, because like you said, if we were following the code exactly here, the lot would have narrowed it down to, what was it, 30 feet? It's making an observation that there are a lot of projects that are going to come in front of us here that deal with that kind of thing. And it's just that the way the property was laid out back in the 30s, maybe even earlier than that. They're just narrow. They just were thinking about things in a different way. So I'm just making an observation that maybe when somebody is working on a revision to the code, that we might try to take that into consideration, so we don't run into so many of these things. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Bruce. Did you want to take a short break, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, let's do that and then reconvene at 1:30. Actually, that would be a very short break.
2 minutes.
Did you want to get started, Mr. Chair?
Yes, why don't we do that? I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Ms. Hamblin for a roll call.
Michael, excuse me, Michael Marks,
Here.
Bruce Dawson,
Here.
Jesse Lugo,
Here.
Miranda Schubert,
Here.
Irma Duran. She's absent. Bonnie Paulus.
Present?
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Very good. Okay, I want to start by reading some prepared comments for the benefit of those in the virtual audience. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Tucson's Board of Adjustment. This meeting is being recorded, and by joining the meeting, you are giving consent to that recording. We have three hearings on today's agenda. After each case is introduced, staff will present its staff report, and after that, the applicant or his or her representative will have time to speak. Other people, first those in favor and then those in opposition, will have an opportunity to speak as well. The applicant will then be given an opportunity for rebuttal. Throughout this period, board members may ask questions of staff, the applicant, or the other speakers. When all of that testimony is in, the board will close the public hearing, discuss the matter, and then vote on a motion made and seconded. All of those who wish to speak will be asked to first state their name and address for the record. All presentations today must be directed solely to the board and not to staff or members of the audience, and all must be related to the case at hand and not to any other matter. For those who wish to speak, we ask that you be brief and to the point. Repetition of testimony already given by other witnesses is not necessary. And I can invoke a time limit for third-party speakers if necessary. Please remember that all testimony given today must be given under oath. And a reminder, please be sure to mute yourself and turn your cameras off unless you are addressing the board. The decision of the Board of Adjustment may be appealed to the Superior Court of Pima County by filing a complaint for special action with the Pima County Superior Court's Clerk's Office within 30 days of the board's decision. For additional information on this filing process, please contact the Superior Court Clerk's Office or an attorney after today's public hearing. At this time, I am going to ask city staff to raise their right hands and I will swear you in. And do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. And let's move to the first item on the agenda. And Mr. Castro, would you take it from here?
Mr. Berger, will you go ahead and present that case? Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Chair, members of the board, today's first case is C-10-2310, Viegas Storage, George Zazueta, 2101 North Oracle Road, C2 zoning. The applicant's property is an approximately 12,500 square foot lot, zone C2 commercial, and is currently undeveloped. The applicant is proposing to construct a new commercial storage building. The applicant's request to the board. The applicant is requesting the following variances. 1, delete the required 10-foot landscape border between the 166-foot length of the proposed building and the north property line. And 2, modify the screening requirement by allowing the exterior building wall to serve as the screen for the 166-foot length of the proposed building along the north property line, all as shown on the submitted plans. Related plan reviews, Design Review Board. Zoning regulations require requests for landscaping and/or screening variances to be reviewed by the DRB for recommendation to the Board of Adjustment. The variance requests were reviewed by the DRB on November 17th, 2023. The DRB recommends denial of the requested variances, finding the requests not in compliance with UDC Section 310(3)K. In summary, the DRB found that massing of the building and choice of location is self-imposed, and that the property does not exhibit any exceptional topography that would prevent the project from meeting code, and that due to the height of the building, the elimination of a landscape border would substantially diminish light and air on the adjacent apartment units, and that the applicant has not thoroughly considered other options of design or location, and therefore is not the minimum necessary to afford relief. Planning and Development Services Department recommendation. PDSD staff has no objections to the applicant's requested variances. It is the opinion of staff, there are special circumstances applicable to the property, that the granting of the variances will not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which such property is located, and that the variances requested are the minimum needed to afford relief and the least modification possible of those UDC provisions which are in question. To date, we have received a total of 1 written approval and 0 written protests. Mr. Chair, members of the board, this concludes staff's presentation. Let me know if you have any further questions at this time.
Well, Mr. Berger, thank you. I don't have any questions. Are there any from any of the other board members? And seeing none, I will thank you again and ask the petitioner to turn his or her camera on and audio on, and so we can swear him in. And I see you, and would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, George Lazueta, 4861 South Hotel Drive, Suite 125.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you proceed with your comments?
Yes, if I am allowed to share my screen, would that be possible?
Yes.
We need to enable the shared screen function, please.
Is that something, Mark, you can do with Mr. Berger?
Mr. Zazueta, you should be able to do that now. I just gave you the
Thank you.
right.
Thank you. Okay, so the project, when we took on the project, the owners of the property, when they bought this, their intention was to see what type of business they could accommodate this size shaped lot. And when we were given the project, the owners decided, consulting with the owners, we decided to go with a commercial storage type of built business, so we could reduce the amount of parking that would be required for the project in order to maximize the square footage of the actual building itself. So in proposing the size of this building, we were able to accommodate all the different access points and parking required, loading zones, and trash pickup locations per the zoning code. The zoning code does allow the building to go up to the property line. However, when we look at the landscape code requires a buffer yard, a 10-foot buffer yard, whenever we are next to a road, a street, which is on 3 sides of this property, And when there is a residential use next to the commercial use, there's also requirement to have a 10-foot buffer yard. So when we submitted the package, of course, we got the comments back. We did get a comment back from a zoning reviewer telling us that in order for us to be able to place the building on the property line, there was an option to go through a design development option where we would be able to place the building and use the building as screening right at the property line, with the condition of us being able to accommodate the landscape, number of landscape trees and shrubs on the rest of the property. Well, because of the shape of the site and the limitations that we have on 3 sides, and then the area that's being taken up by the parking and access drives, we were able to accommodate the number of trees and shrubs, but the ground cover was not being met. And of course, as you can see, the site is already congested. So therefore, the design development option to place the building on the property line was rejected for that reason. And our only option at that point was to apply for a variant to see if we could waive the landscape border on the 166 feet of building length that you see now. One of the reasons why we placed the building up front is, one, of course, the business owners wants to make sure that this is a successful business, and because of all the different requirements that are imposed because of the landscape code on all 3 sides, then maximizing square footage obviously would be good for the business model for them to make sure that this would be a profitable business. This building has been, or this property has been vacant for over 20 some years, and maybe there's a reason why it's been vacant, because maybe it's hard to develop something that might be a good business model, and maybe that's why it's been vacant so long. So we're just trying to accommodate the business model that makes sure that could be successful, and at the same time respect part of the code wherever we can. In other places, we are proposing to accommodate the trees and shrubs throughout the rest of the property, with the exception of the 166 feet that we see, which is the building length there. When we went out to the neighborhood meeting, some of the neighbors, business owners that are around the site came to talk to us. They have some sort of a community between business owners there, and one of their concerns is to see if the new business owner would maybe join them in joining the community with them, because they all kind of watch out for each other. They're all really interested into what type of businesses are moving into the area. And one of the concerns that they brought up to us was the fact that there are homeless encampments in and around the area. And we felt that by placing the building up to the north property line, that the space between the 10-foot space between the building and the screen would eliminate the possibility of having a homeless encampment area, which is very visible on the 13th Avenue side of the streets. We drove by there when we went to the meeting, and there were already homeless encampments on that side of the street. So by us moving the building to the north, it would alleviate, at least on that length of the building, the potential for having homeless encampment there. We did present this to the design review board. They felt that some of these were self-imposed, and there's really nothing in the topography that would not allow a landscape, and that's pretty obvious. We know that. The design development option for landscaping does allow you to put it up there if you could justify placing the landscape somewhere else. But since we are limited in space, we weren't successful in providing the area required for that landscape area. So therefore, we did move forward with it, and we could see in the overall context here that most of the lots are developed, and the ones that are developed, there are other businesses that are up against the residential zone where there are no landscape buffers. And of course, this could be because they were designed or approved before the landscape code was updated to require that 10-foot buffer yard. And lastly, the property to the north already has a 5-foot screen fence right now. And the property distance from the fence to the buildings are approximately 14 feet. And none of these units actually have windows that look out to their backyard. So there's no light that would be, I guess, taken away from the actual units on the inside, meaning there's no windows that we're going to be blocking, other than the first unit over here on the far right of that picture only has a window that's underneath the porch that's already in shaded view. And just really quickly, let me just share one more thing, and I will conclude my presentation. This is a model that we created just to show the scale of the buildings, and I'm just going to play. This is just a model to show a solar study of the actual proposed storage with the units in the back. Like I said, there are no windows here other than this building here at the far east side of the property. But when we play this is the spring equinox. When we play the solar study, you could see that some of the backyard is in shaded. It is in the shade. I will change the time here for the winter so you can see the difference, and then I'll do the summer. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Here would be the winter. So at different times of the day, of course, the shadows would be casted on the backyard. And then lastly, that would be the summer. So the majority of the season in our climate, we're arid, we're hot for the majority of the year. The property would have its own daylight and air, but that would be a matter of interpretation by who looks at this. So we just did the study just to verify what the impact would be to the property owners, but our case was just to make a note that there are really no windows that would be affected. None of the interior living areas would be affected by this 20-foot wall that we would be building. But that would just be the demonstration that we wanted to provide today to see if that was an impactful thing to now allow this. So, I will take any questions from anybody.
Yeah, Mr. Zazueto, this is Mike Marks, the chairman. I just want to get clarification of where the proposed building is going relative to the south and east property lines. What is the proposed setback that you have there?
The proposed setbacks are 21 feet from the property line, from both sides, and that
both sides.
Yes.
So that begs the second question. Since you have the room, you have the 10 feet. Well, let me ask this first. What are you using that 21 feet along both sides for? If you're not using those two areas for landscaping?
Yes, Mr. Marks. So the response would be 21 feet from the furthest travel lane of those two roads. So
So
part of
what is
it
it
is
from
right
the
of way.
property line?
I'm sorry. Yes, yes. So it's 21 feet from the furthest travel lane
Right, right.
of that right of way. And,
Right, I
and then
understand.
so
Let
there,
me interject. Let me clarify my question. What is the setback from the property line?
the setback from the property line is based on the actual right of way travel lane, and it's 21 feet.
You're,
you
you're
have a
missing the point. From the actual property line to the proposed building, what is that dimension?
Oh.
10 feet. It's 10 feet.
It's 10 feet.
It is 10 feet in both sides, both the east and the southerly.
Correct.
So what are the plans for the 10 feet in both sides?
So on the, if I could share my screen here.
Sometimes Michael is, don't think he prepares.
Okay. So on the east side, the 10 feet has a combination of landscape and access, an access sidewalk. And then on the south end, we are proposing also access and landscape as well for at least half of the length of the building.
So you have a required number of trees based upon a formula of so many, a tree per so many feet. Without going through the calculation, are you able to accommodate all the trees?
Yes.
You are. You're not looking for a reduction in the number of trees.
No.
So you are satisfying the landscape code to some extent.
To the extent that we are providing the required plantings and trees, yes.
The only thing that you're you're in non-compliance with is the depth where there is concrete, there's a sidewalk. Is that correct?
That is correct. To be clear, Mr. Marks, we did get permission from the Department of Transportation to be able to put 5 feet of landscaping in the right of way. There was an exception in the code that could be allowed, and we did apply for that rule, and it was granted to us. So
that 5 feet, do you have 5 feet on adjacent to your property, your building within your property? And do you in effect have compliance with the landscape ordinance despite your request for a variance?
On the east and the south side,
On the south and the east?
Yes. Yes, we are. We are in compliance on those two sides.
So your variance is moot unless I'm missing something.
No, because the variance states that, I'm sorry, the landscape code states that whenever a commercial use abuts a residential use, then there has to be a 10-foot buffer on that side of the property. So that's why we're applying for the variance, is to be able to use the building as the screen and eliminate the 10-foot buffer yard along the 166-foot length of the building.
Which length? The southern, not the southern or eastern, because you comply with that.
Right. The
Talking
south
about
and
the
the
northern?
It's the northern.
It's just the northerly. boundary.
correct. That's correct.
Homework.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Ms. Polis, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I was going to bring up a point of clarification. I don't know if this is for the applicant or for staff. My understanding from the reading is that if the property to the north were being used as a motel as it was originally built and not as apartments, that they would not be required to do landscaping along the north edge. Is that correct?
Ms. Paulus, this is Wyatt Berger from PDSD. That is correct. The original use of the parcel to the north was a motel. That is a commercial use. A 10-foot wide landscape border would not be required along the north lot line if that motel use were still existing. Now that we have a residential use to the north, there is a 10-foot landscape border requirement along the north lot line.
So it doesn't matter that the property is still zoned commercial and that renting apartments is a commercial use, it's still considered residential use now?
It is still considered a residential use, yes.
Okay. Do you have any information on what kind of sound barrier this building might provide for the residents in the northern part of that area?
Well, Ms. Paulus, the building wall will be constructed of CMU. So that in itself will alleviate some of the noise transfer from the inside of the building to the outside. However, the use is of storage. So the majority of the time, there's just going to be a storage of materials and furniture, whatever people store. There's not going to be activity inside the building to create daily noises for the activity of the business.
Thank you. And my other concern is that will there be any windows or security lighting on the north side of your building that might be intrusive to the residential use to the north?
We are not proposing any openings or any lighting on that side of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other board members have a question of Mr. Sazueto? Hearing none, thank you for your presentation. I want to ask, is there anybody else in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to this case? So hearing none, unless there is a question or comment that a board member wants to make at this point, I will close the hearing and ask the board if they wish to discuss the matter or if a member wishes to make a motion. Ms. Paulus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I realize having a two-story wall behind a backyard might normally be intrusive and unwanted, but I disagree this time with the Design Review Board. The applicant is proposing to provide as much tree canopy as would be required if he did have the vegetation along the north edge. I think the building itself might act as a buffer from traffic noise to the south that those residents must be experiencing on a regular basis. And I feel like this use could be the least intrusive use to residential properties to the north than other kinds of commercial use would be. So my feeling is that this is not self-imposed, that the lot size is a constraining factor. I think that the code is a little bit schizophrenic in terms of how it's defining the use to the north. And I would recommend that we approve the request for the variance in this case.
And do you want to make that motion? Are there any conditions that staff recommended in the material they provided to us?
No.
None at all? Okay. So is there a second to that motion?
Jesse Lugo, second motion.
Okay, very good. We have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. With the chairman voting aye, the motion is carried unanimously. So good luck to you, Mr. Zazueta, and let's move on to the second matter.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the board, the second case today is C-10-2311. Colonia Allegra LLC Garage Edition, David B. Garcia, 4329 East 14th Street, R1 zoning. The applicant's property is an approximately 10,600 square foot lot zoned R1 residential and is developed with one single family dwelling. The applicant is proposing to construct an attached garage. The applicant's request to the board. The applicant is requesting the following variance. To allow the construction of an attached garage with a reduced front street perimeter yard setback from 20 feet to 3 feet 5 inches as measured from the street property line as shown on the submitted plans. Related plan reviews. The engineering section of Planning and Development Services Department has no objection, adverse comments. Planning and Development Services recommendation. PDSC staff has no objection to the applicant's requested variance. Should the board grant the variance, staff recommends the following condition. There shall be no parking between the garage and the street. It is the opinion of staff there are special circumstances such as existing site conditions that restrict the location of the garage, and that garages and carports are common in the neighborhood and therefore would not constitute a granting of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity and zone, and that the variance requested is the minimum necessary to afford relief and the least modification possible of those UDC provisions which are in question. To date, we have received a total of 2 written approvals and 1 written protest. For the record, board members have been provided copies of the letters. Mr. Chair, members of the board, this concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Are there any from any other board member?
No.
Hearing none, thank you again, Ms. Pennington, and let me ask, is the petitioner present? And I see that he's turned his video on. Can I ask you to raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth? I don't think your audio is on.
I do.
Very good. Thank you. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Sure. David Garcia, architect, 4254 East Calle de Madrid, Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, why don't you proceed with your comments?
Sure. Do you, let me turn on the, can I share my screen?
Mm-hmm. You can.
Mr. Garcia, I just granted you rights. Might have to give it a minute here.
Okay. Can you see that?
No.
Oh, here we go. There, fine.
Yeah.
How can you see that? Okay, we are proposing a new garage addition on the eastern portion of this existing residence. The residence has been there for quite a number of years. I think it was built in the late 40s, early 50s. We are also adding a small addition here, which is about 74 square feet. The variance concentrates really on the setback here, the garage from the property line on the south. The required setback is 20 feet, and our current location to the edge of the garage is only 3.5 feet. As you can see by the site plan, the original house was sited pretty contrary to what you normally see. Normally you see the rectangle perpendicular or parallel to the property lines. For whatever reason, they decided when they built this house, they decided to skew it. And as a result, it makes it difficult to to do anything within the required setbacks. On this western portion, there are two parking spaces and an existing mature tree that exists there. So this is about the only place that you would be able to pull in a vehicle and park a vehicle here. Let me just open up. Well, I was going to show you the floor plan, but basically this dashed line that you see here indicates how the vehicle would fit within the space. In this addition, there's also a little bit of storage and a bathroom in this area here. We had a public meeting that wasn't too well attended, but most of the questions generated around the square footage, the process, and what we intended to do with the who we intended to park here, and it's just one vehicle is all the room we have. If we could put a 2-car garage, we would have, but this is all that would fit within that space there. There is no other area right now to protect a vehicle other than parking it underneath a tree. So not even room for another carport or anything else. So this would be probably the limit of any addition, especially for the use of a garage. And that's it.
Well, thank you. I don't have any questions for you. Let me look to the other board members to see if they might have a question for you. And it looks like there are none.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of questions.
Well, then proceed.
Thank you. Is there an on-site manager for this adult care facility?
Yes, that person, yes, there is a person that works here.
And
Cool.
do they live at the site? Do they have a
No,
bedroom?
they do not live at the site.
So the manager is only there during the day?
That's correct. The owner actually of this facility, of this building here, actually lives across the street. So if there's any issues that come up, he's directly across the street.
Okay, thank you. In your new addition on the east side of the property, you're showing a bathroom. Will there be a new door into bedroom number 4 from that bathroom, or is that only accessible from the garage?
No, there will be a door from that bedroom.
Okay, and from the storage room to what's designated as bedroom 5, will there also be a doorway, or will that be enclosed?
That will be enclosed.
Okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
think that's all my questions.
Okay.
Very good. Mr. Garcia, why don't you stand by for just a moment? Let me ask, is there anybody else in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to this case?
Yes,
And could you turn your video on and your audio?
my audio should be on.
It is on, but your video is not yet.
Yeah, I'm from a phone. I'm not sure I can get to it right now.
Well,
I'm afraid I'll drop it. I don't see it.
okay. Well, let's work with just your audio. I'm going to ask that you raise your right hand, and we're going to trust that you will. And do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth? Now we've lost your.
I do.
Okay. Okay. Why don't you identify yourself by name and address, and explain whether that location is adjacent or nearby to the subject property, and then proceed with your comments.
Okay, Michael Phillips, my wife, Victoria Stahl, and I live directly across the street at 4318 East 14th.
Okay.
As noted, contrary to all materials sent out about this proposal, the proposal is not only for a garage. It is for the addition of living space. The bathroom, as previously noted, is available from the bedroom. There's also an additional door that goes into the hallway that the room in the addition on the north, the room with windows, is also able to get to. Unfortunately, none of the materials sent out for the neighborhood meeting, nor I see on the agenda item, is this referenced as the addition of living space within 3.5 feet of the property line. And it's clearly shown on the plans. The variance of 16.5 feet puts the house almost on the street, and it is not a reasonable request, and is actually would be unsightly. And this is why we have setback rules. No other properties in the neighborhood have living space within 3.5 feet of the property line. There are some carports that seem to be within the 20 feet. There's certainly no garages and no additions with living space. It's listed, zoned as a single family dwelling, but for many years has been a 5-person care facility. And as of last year, was licensed to become a 10-bed care facility. The structure as proposed would actually take away parking spaces. The area where it's designated to go is currently used by staff and visitors. And I can only assume there would be more visitors once they start ramping up for a 10-bed facility. Also, emergency vehicles on occasion have need to get in and out. There is not, although as depicted as existing carport on the property, there are no carports on the property currently, and seems to be adequate space for parking. I think, as was noted earlier, it would be impossible to put a car in front of the garage with a 3.5-foot setback without jutting out into the street. And I'd just like to note, as we have previously written to staff, that I fail to understand how neighbors can make an assessment of the proposal when it's not accurately depicted and presented to them. There were errors which we went over in the neighborhood meeting. We were seem to have been the only ones there. I think there probably would have been other people if they'd known that living space was being proposed to go within 3.5 feet of the property line. And again, I was a bit dismayed that when the agenda finally came out, it had not been corrected to indicate living space as well as a garage. Yeah, I believe that's summary of our opposition to this.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, thank you. I don't have any questions for you. Are there any from any other board member? Yes. Mr.
Yes.
Dawson. Okay.
Mr. Phillips, Bruce Dawson, did you put in a written protest to this during the thing? Because I don't remember seeing any.
Yes, we did, and it was acknowledged.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Oh.
question of Mr. Garcia. I'm assuming that the neighbor who just spoke is referring to the tool storage room that is part of the garage as a living space. Do you have any intention at all as using this as a bedroom or a living space?
No, the only living space is the bathroom. So, and that's, as you can see, I couldn't pull it up earlier when you asked about it, but here it is now. It does have a door from the garage area and then a door to bedroom 4. Bedroom 5 has a bathroom, and it did have a bathroom window, and we're closing that up.
And can you tell me why you require a window in the storage room?
Yeah, so that would be a place to stick furniture. There's always a need to move beds around in furniture and those sorts of things. So that keeps that separate from the garage area. So it has its own door. We could be locked.
Would you be willing to eliminate the window that you are showing on the east side of that storage room?
Yes.
Because I think that's where the difficulty is in determining whether or not that will eventually become a living space. If there's a window, it could eventually be turned into a bedroom. Whereas if there is no window, that would be very problematic to convert it to a bedroom. Is that correct, Mr. or the staff person who made the presentation, Georgina?
Yes, as far as I know, for building code, you need a window for a bedroom.
So if that window were removed, that could not be used as a bedroom legally under code?
As far as I'm not an expert in building code, but as far as I know, they would not be able to have it as a bedroom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just excuse me, just a point with regards to the code that if that window was a high window or a window which couldn't be accessed from the ground and did not provide code required egress from the thing, to have a bedroom, a legal bedroom, closet, tool storage, whatever you want to call it, would be have a certain number of square feet, a certain number of height above the floor for it to be, which would then allow it definitely to become a bedroom. So I would go along with Bonnie's requirement that we either modify that window and or remove it, which would remove any question as to whether that could be made a bedroom. Thank you.
Okay, if that is all the questions from the board members, and if that is the only third-party speaker in the virtual audience, if not, please speak up. But if that be the case, Mr. Garcia, I would allow you a minute or two of rebuttal to the comments made just previously, if you wish.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, the bathroom is going to be used for bedroom number 4. There are a number of other things that reasons why this could not be used as a bedroom. Bedrooms are not allowed to egress into a garage space. The The wall separating that storage room from the garage, if it were a bedroom, would have to be 1 hour. The window would have to be a minimum of 4x4 to allow egress. I mean, if we change that to a high window, then it wouldn't meet egress. And then it's not, a bedroom was not allowed to have passage through a garage into the rest of the house. So there are a number of building codes that are in place that would not allow that use as a bedroom.
Okay. Alrighty, I will, I think we have all the information that we need. So I will close the public hearing and open it up to board members for discussion and or a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, I certainly have no objection to this, to these variances. I'm satisfied that they're not going to be able to turn this into a bedroom. And I'm not sure where they're going to fit 10 people in the future, but hey, it's probably double up the beds in those bedrooms. I don't know. But I failed to get the email that was sent out that had the forms for acceptance and the thing, but I would form a motion to accept the proposal and to grant the variance.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. With the chair voting aye, the request is approved unanimously.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Hamlin.
I would like to make a request that a new motion is made that states findings for the variance as demonstrated in the templates that are provided to the board, if that would be possible, and a new vote held.
Yeah, Mr. Dawson, have you got the template?
No, I did not have I did not get the templates. I looked for it in my email, but I didn't. And so I apologize for not having the proper wording in on that variance or the name of the thing. So if somebody else can fill that in for me, I would appreciate it.
Well, I think the motion is to approve, subject to the condition recommended by staff. There shall not be any parking between the garage and the street. And indicate that the evidence presented to the board shows that there are special circumstances which were not self-imposed, which are applicable to the property and support the granting of the requested variance. Would that be acceptable language, Ms. Hamlin?
Yes, it would. Thank you.
Okay, if that is the modified motion, then is there still a second to that motion?
Yes, I'll still
Okay.
second it.
Then with this modified motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. With chair voting aye, the motion is carried unanimously. So, Mr. Garcia, good luck to you, and that is all we need to do on that case. And we will move on to the third and last case on the agenda, and that is the Vance and Rasmussen residence. Staff, if you can give us your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Our final case is C10-23-12, Vance and Rasmussen Residence New Storage Building, Jovan Vance and Lindsay Rasmussen at 4655 South Mesquite Ranch Road, SR zoning. The applicant's property is approximately 17.67 acre parcel that is zoned SR Suburban Ranch and is developed with the single family residence, barn, and several other accessory structures. The applicants are proposing to construct a new steel storage building. The applicants are requesting the following variances. 1, allow the detached storage building to be constructed with an increased height from 12 feet to 18 feet 9 inches as measured from design grade to the midpoint between the eave and ridge of the roof. And 2, allow the combined total gross floor area of all accessory structures that are 200 square feet or larger to exceed 50% of the combined total gross floor area of the principal structure, all as shown on submitted plans. In related plan reviews, the engineering section of Planning and Development Services Department issued a floodplain use permit on August 15, 2023. The applicant is authorized to use a portion of the special flood hazard area with conditions for the new storage building. Planning and Development Services staff has no objection to the applicant's requested variances. It is the opinion of staff that there are special circumstances applicable to the property and that the proposed storage building would not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone, and would not be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. To date, we have received a total of 1 written approval and 0 protests. This concludes staff's presentation. Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I don't have any, but are there any coming from any other board member? Seeing none, let's move to the representative for the case. I see a video of Jovan Vance. If you are representing the case, would you raise your right hand? And do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And can you state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Jovan Vance, 4655 South Mesquite Ranch Road.
Okay, why don't you proceed with your comments? There's one matter I would be curious about, and that is why you need as much height as you're requesting. If you can insert an answer into your presentation, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, sure. The height requirement is so we can park. We have a couple large equipment. We have a tractor that we would like to park, and then we also have a lot of hay that we'd like to stack up and be able to deliver bulk hay for our horses that we have, so we could easily unload the hay from the semi and put it in our facility.
Okay. Any other comments generally that you want to make?
No, I don't have any other comments that weren't addressed by Mark.
Okay, well, any questions for Mr. Vance by any of the board members? Okay, Mr. Vance, why don't you stand by for a moment? Let me ask, are there any other speakers in the audience who want to address this case? Hearing none, and Mr. Vance, you would then have no need for rebuttal. Let me just ask one more time of the board members, do you have any comments or questions you want to ask or express before we close this hearing? And hearing none, I will close the hearing and I will open it up to the board. Ms. Polis.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In looking at the location of this property and the size of the parcel, I tend to agree with staff that granting the variance for C10-2312 to allow the detached storage building to be increased in height from 12 feet to 18 feet 9 inches, and to allow the combined total gross floor area of all accessory structures to exceed the 50% combined total gross floor area of the principal structures, and that I think that there are special circumstances, given that the property is quite large, that this is in keeping with the properties in the surrounding area. It's actually a suburban ranch zoned property that's actually being used as a suburban ranch. And I believe that the request for the additional height for the storage of farm equipment and other items related to the use of this property, and that this is not anything that would be detrimental to the public welfare or other properties within the neighborhood. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Do you want to incorporate the language in the template into that motion?
I did.
Did? Okay, okay.
I was reading from that, so
Okay,
yes.
very good. Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Acknowledged. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. With the chair voting aye, the request is approved unanimously. So, Mr. Vance, congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are done with our agenda. And unless staff has any further comments, we will call this meeting adjourned.
We can adjourn the public hearing portion of the meeting, but we do have other business items on the agenda.
Okay, okay. Well, let's move on to those other matters.
Mr. Castro, do you want to cover the first two items under the other business?
Sure. So, Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm referring to on the agenda under other business. The first item we have is a proposal to move to a hybrid meeting format for the calendar year of 2024. A couple of weeks ago, the city clerk's office emailed staff that manages boards, committees, and commissions. And the proposal that's being presented to us is now there is an option to move the meetings to a hybrid format. So it's come down from the clerk's office, so it is official that we can start moving into a hybrid meeting format. This is something that in order to start that process, we would need to have the board vote on the matter and get a unanimous vote for us to move forward with it. So the first opportunity to have a hybrid meeting would be in the month of January. And so I'm looking to, at least this point, to get a vote on the matter so that I can go ahead and proceed with that. I'm also been advised that the training that the clerk's office will provide will be started sometime in January once things get rolling. That's when the clerk's office is going to be allocating some staff to provide some training to the staff that supports the Board of Adjustment or the other boards. So we do have that opportunity. So I would like to go ahead and leave it up to turn it over to you, Mr. Chair, if you have a discussion or questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you clarify what a hybrid meeting is? I mean, at one level, I think I understand, and that is one could attend in person or by Zoom, but that, do I take it correctly? That means that relates to the board members as well as the public?
So the format is, you're correct. It does include two formats. It includes the meeting in person and also video. The intent here is for staff and board members to meet in person and then give the public the option of attending virtually or being at the meeting in public. So we need to have a space that can accommodate the public should the majority of the public attend these meetings. But the expectation for us, for the Board of Adjustment, is that we do attend the meetings in person. And of course, we want to be able to include or accommodate those in the public who wish to join these public hearings. Maybe they can't get up time, but they can join virtually. So we would still like to reserve that option for them to attend the public hearing. It also becomes an opportunity in case any one of you for some reason is not able to join the public hearing, and we're down to a minimum quorum, but you could join by phone or video and still be able to vote on any matter that's before the board. So that gives you the opportunity in a situation like that. Does that answer your question, Mr. Chair?
Well, it does, and yeah, I understand. I don't want to belabor this subject much more, but I'm curious how we would view somebody who is attending remotely. Would we anticipating a large screen that will be projecting their image on there?
So, Mr. Chair and members of the board, the clerk's office has indicated that the mayor and council chambers will be available to boards, committees, commissions that want to use that for hybrid meetings. We will be getting the training to use their equipment. It's just like mayor and council meetings right now where they do have that hybrid option, and they are able to see those are attending virtually on the screen inside the mayor and council chamber. So it'll be the same setup. Again, we'll be getting training on that if we should decide to move forward in that direction.
Okay. Well, I guess are you asking us to vote on whether we want to participate in that program? And if that's so, then I'll ask for that vote in just a second. But before, when would be the soonest of these type of meetings?
This goes into effect in January, but the clerk's office is saying that training will start that month. So I'm not particularly sure when we would be able to get into that training, but that's when it would start.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, if it would be in order, I would ask the members, would you support that? And I don't know if we need a motion of any kind. I guess we would just turn to each one and just ask, are you okay with that or not? And starting on the top on my screen with top left is Bonnie. Do you have any position on that?
Yes. First, a point of clarification. Is this proposal for us to meet at City Hall and Mayor and Council Chambers? Is that correct, Mark?
It's essentially to go into a hybrid meeting, but yes, we would be using the mayor and council chambers.
Okay.
And just to add to that, the only time we would not use mayor and council chambers for the meeting would be if there was some kind of conflict and we needed to find a secondary location.
Right.
And if we did need to do that, we would make sure it had the same equipment and capabilities as mayor and council chamber.
Thank you, Elisa. My comment here is I don't feel that doing public hearings totally virtually really serves us well. I also think that it makes it difficult when there is a controversial issue. We've had a number of technical issues in the past, trying to hear other people, make sure that everyone is heard who wants to be heard. And I really do support meeting in person, and I appreciate that the clerk's office is now willing to allow us to meet in a hybrid format so that if someone from the public cannot attend in person, that they would not be excluded from the meeting. So my feeling is I definitely support this move to go to hybrid meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. How about you, Miranda?
I think this was already covered, but just to confirm and double check, if one of the members of the committee was unable to attend in person, that attending remotely would be an option. And I only say that because I work full time and it's already challenging to make the time to attend these hearings virtually. And so I feel reasonably confident I can make in person since I work really close to City Hall, but just to confirm.
Okay, well, so
Yeah, that's
Mark,
correct.
that is the case, right?
That is correct, yes.
Then I would support moving to a hybrid format as well.
Okay, very good. Bruce, what about you?
Well, I would absolutely look forward to doing in-place meetings. I've sort of am okay with these Zoom formats, and we've got it honed down pretty well. But I'd go for in person anytime.
Okay.
And I've been on committees where it's been where we have used mayor and council chambers, so I have no problem with that at all. So I
Okay.
support it.
Very good. Jesse, what do you say about it? Jesse, are you there? Maybe not. I would support the conversion to the hybrid system. I think being in person really adds a dimension to the whole public hearing process, whatever the public hearing subject might be. There's a different interaction when you can see somebody for real versus a image of them on a screen. So I support that. So I think we have a unanimous support from those who are here to speak, but there's one. Let me just ask again, Jesse Lugo, are you present? I guess not. And then we have, hold on, Irma, that's not present. So I think that's all we have to say on it right now.
Mr. Chair,
Mm-hmm.
could I make a suggestion that you or Mark reach out to our other two members, Jesse Lugo and Irma Duran, and just find out if they have any serious objections to our making this move to hybrid meetings, and we could revisit it if they do. My feeling is that it is the way for us to go, but I would hate to have a member who was seriously objecting to it and not be able to hear from them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mark, is that something you can do?
Yes, I can reach out.
Okay, very good. Okay, what's the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, do we have to make a motion, Mark?
Yes, please. Let's go ahead and make a motion and vote so we have that on record, just to cover.
Okay, well, those present, is there somebody who wants to make a motion to support the hybrid system of public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, Jesse Lugo.
Jesse, you're there.
Yes.
Yeah, we were looking for your input before. Why don't we, I will ask again, do you support the hybrid public hearing process?
Yes, I do, and I'm ready to make, yes, I do, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, why don't you do it?
I move that we move forward with a hybrid meeting started in January for the Board of Adjustments for the city of Tucson.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that?
I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. With the chair voting aye, it is carried unanimously of those who are present. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, the second item we have is to discuss upcoming training, and this is not a matter that we need to vote on, but we just want to bring it up. So I think it'd be a good time starting out in January with a new year, moving into a hybrid meeting format. And it's been a while since we've all had some training. But I think it would be a good idea to schedule for a training session, and the date that we have in mind right now is January 10th. So if you could just write that down and look at that date, let me know if you have any conflicts with that date. But we're looking at going ahead and covering what we previously covered with each one of you when we introduced you into the Board of Adjustment process. So there are some things that we want to go over, such as procedures during the public hearing, findings, reviewing the findings of cases, and anything else that you can think of that you would like us to include in training. You can email that directly to me, separate email, just directly to me. Give me some ideas. If there's anything that you want to cover, we can add to the training, and we'll try to incorporate all of that. It will be an in-person training. So if you can all make it, that would be wonderful. I'd like to see all your faces in person, and let's just make the best out of this training. Elisa, is there anything that you wanted to add to this?
I don't think so. I mean, other than just, it's a good time for a refresher for everyone because of the changes, and Mark's already said that. So I really would support us all trying to be there as much as possible. And I mean, we did do a training maybe about a year ago, but it is challenging to try and convey some of the technical information of the Board of Adjustment in a virtual meeting, just because it's not, it's hard to just like interject and ask questions when things don't make sense. So I think an in-person training is going to be really beneficial. Thank you, Mark.
Sure. That's all I have.
Wait, yeah, I do have one question that we as which kind of relates to training and process. We're a deliberatory board, and I did not see any name for our city attorney. Was he here or she here?
She's here.
Ah, okay. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Sure.
Miss Bonham is our representative from the city attorney's office, and has been for a little while, but we have changed attorneys a couple times, so understand the question.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. This is my voice.
Very good. Mark, there's a couple of the items on the other business, but are they all?
Videos on Apple Watch.
Those
Are there? Do we need to discuss the other items separately?
unless any board member or yourself has something they would like to address.
No, I don't. Any board member have anything they want to bring up? We're pretty satisfied. So, are we done?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank
Take
you
care.
all. Have a
Bye-bye.
good
Thank you,
afternoon.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.